everyone. My name is Steve Moak, and I am the Unlicensed Counselor. And this is the Unlicensed Counselor podcast. As always, so grateful to be here on a warm summer day here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I think summer has finally arrived as of literally, I think this week. We've been pretty lucky out here in Scottsdale. We've had some great weather to kind of make it this far, almost to the end of June before 110 plus starts to knock on the door. And for me, I'm a runner. I get up in the morning, I get my miles in, and now it's like, oh boy, I'm not sure I could get up early enough to kind of log my miles. But hey, the pros and cons of living in the Valley of the Sun. I mean, they call it the Valley of the Sun. Does get a little toasty in the summertime here, but great time to get out to Flagstaff, shoot down to Rocky Point, San Diego, LA, Salt Lake City, Park City, you name it. There's so many great options. One of the reasons why I love living here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I shouldn't even say that. I don't know if we need more people moving into town right now. I mean, we are like a hot spot. The real estate here, I know everybody else is kind of slowed down, but man, it just keeps trucking along. But enough about the wonderful city in which I live in. We'll get down to the business today. I want to talk, again, as I always say, I start thinking about the topics and kind of bat this around with a few friends of mine around topics for the next week. I always am trying to think of topics that are applicable, relevant, not only in my own life, but things that I think a lot of people might be struggling with, contemplating, thinking about, haven't given enough thought about. And the topic that I came up with that I want to dig into this week is life transitions, right? So we're going to start by talking about some examples of life transitions just so we can kind of set the stage, and then dig into various strategies on how to address some of these life transitions as well too. And not to get too philosophical here, but isn't life all about transitions from age to relationships to friendships to you name it? I mean, we're constantly flowing. And it's really interesting. Some people, in my experience, I've seen do really well with kind of floating and kind of, I like to think of water and how it just kind of floats around obstacles and things like that. I think there's a famous Bruce Lee quote around that. And I'd like to think of myself like that, but and I am to a degree, but I don't think the majority of folks necessarily are wired that way. I mean, transitions can be fraught with stress and anxiety, discomfort. People just don't handle change necessarily that well, and some people handle routines extremely well. And when you alter that or change that, kind of some of the things that it can stir up are what we want to talk about today. So, really interesting topic. Look forward to digging into it a little bit more. But before we get into it, I want to start by thanking our wonderful, wonderful sponsors who are still here with us. Just getting some of the numbers sent back to us. They continue to go up. Thank you so much. Again, please follow us on The Unlicensed Counselor. On Instagram is really where a lot of our heavy lifting is being done, on our social, our Facebook page, TikTok, all the usual suspects. Like, share, subscribe, review. So grateful that you continue to take the time to follow our comment and for a lot of the conversations that we're having on various channels as well too. But first off, betterdrugtest.com. Our friends at ShareTech, the only drug test you should be using for anyone in your life that needs to be screened for drug and alcohol. Again, drug and alcohol. It is the most comprehensive and accurate test. This is an actual lab-based test. So this isn't a test you buy on Amazon for 20 or 30 or 40 bucks, and then you pee into a cup and a result. So that happens, that the test actually happens within a cup. We collect your sample. It gets overnighted back to our lab in a prepaid UPS envelope that then gets run on an LCMS, this liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. It's a big 6-7 figure machine that then sends you a secure report with a breakdown of not only the substances that were tested, whether or not they were present, and then the levels of the substance that was detected within that system as well. So when you're talking about, drug tests, there's your cheapy Amazon test, and now there's a lab-based test. So when you need to know, go to betterdrugtest.com, pick up one of our $99 tests. You will know exactly what is going on with your loved one. And again, big thanks to them for continuing to be a sponsor for us as well too. Next up, our friends at Easy Sheets. If, again, you're a sheet connoisseur / snob like I am, go to easysheets.club, sign up for a subscription. It's super easy. $50, you can get started on this thing. We're going to professionally clean, press, and ship those sheets right to your front door. As I always say, carry aloha, bamboo, white, boom. You'll thank me later. Whoever's sleeping next to you is going to thank me later. Your sheets are going to be much better than whatever you're sleeping on right now. And they're going to be a lot cleaner, by the way, too. And then you just drop them into a prepaid bag, ship them back to us, and we ship you a new freshly pressed set out. Again, easysheets.club. Honestly, try it. $50. You can't go wrong with that. It's an awesome service. And as always, theunlicenscounselor.com. We want to book some time with me, want to dig a little bit deeper on some of the topics, want to hear how maybe I can add some value into your life, clarity, perspective, suggestions. Again, what I offer is solution-focused counseling. All of the topics that we do here today, I like to talk about a topic, and then I like to talk about ways to move forward, progress through, give you tangible examples on exactly how to address whatever the topic of the day is. If you haven't figured it out yet, that's what we're about here at The Unlicensed Counselor, breaking it down, simple, tangible, easy, take-home value kind of counseling type stuff. So last but not least, Stitch Fix, the shirt. I'm going to stop thanking you, but I'm going to start sending you the numbers as well so you can see that actually you're getting some value out of hopefully being a sponsor for us as well, too. Okay, paid some bills, had a little bit of fun. Life transitions. So let's talk about first examples of life transitions, then we'll dig into the strategies. Just so in case maybe this jogs some of your mind, because maybe you're sitting in your car at the gym right now going, I don't know, am I in a transition or not? Number one that kind of jumps to mind, starting a new job, right? I know that lots of people have changed jobs over the last couple of years. It's been an interesting job market. That is a significant life transition for some. Some maybe more casually flow in and out of them, but for a lot of people, that's a significant event. So a couple things just to think about. Familiarize, that's always a tricky word to say, with the new work environment, establish a routine, seek some support from colleagues, and maintain open communication with your supervisor, right? When you're starting a new job, just some of the basics in terms of a life transition there around your new job. Next up, moving to a new city or country. I've moved a lot of cities, but I've never moved another country. And I always have a lot of respect, by the way, for people who do that. It's pretty cool to kind of uproot and just kind of move it along. But that is a big life transition that comes to mind, right? So you want to make sure that you're exploring your new surroundings, connecting with kind of local communities and groups, staying in touch with your loved ones as well, too, and embracing opportunities for personal growth in kind of this new city or new environment that you're in, right? These are just some of the basics around some life transitions that are out there. Here's another one, getting married, right? Lots of people getting married, divorced, getting remarried, whatever it is, that is a life transition. So want to make sure that we're communicating openly with your partner. Maybe do some premarital counseling, really, to make sure that you're eye to eye in addressing all the things. I can speak from example. In my last marriage, I thought we did actually a pretty good job of this, but there's one thing that we really didn't address, and that was kind of co-parenting. You'd be like, well, how'd you miss that, Steve? Well, again, I took a back seat because she was, for all intents and purposes, a good mom, and I just thought we'd be able to kind of work that out. If I was doing that over again, I would be much more explicit in how we kind of go about co-parenting. So a little premarital counseling to make sure that you address all these things and you don't leave an oops or something that you forgot or didn't touch on. A lot of people, that's finances, I hear. But you want to make sure you got goals, expectations, and still keep a strong support network. Just when you get married doesn't mean you need to abandon all your friends as well, too. So again, big life transition there. Next up, after you get married, becoming a parent, right? Educate yourself around parenting. I did one of these little parenting classes. It was more around like the baby thing as well, too. And it's funny, the place I go, like Saladin goes right next to the little place that I went, and I see all these guys when I'm in the drive-through line kind of coming out of that class all the time. And I'm like, been there, buddy, been there. But it's good. I look back, I kind of make fun of it because I think I was in there for like 3 hours with a bunch of guys, and maybe I got something out of it. But you know what it did? It did make my wife feel better that I went. Not that that was the only reason why I did it, but it showed that I took it seriously, which I obviously did, but I think it was good. Seek support from other parents, practice self-care, be open to adjusting your expectations as you navigate the challenges of parenthood. Things are going to change, guys, girls. If this is your first time around, it's very different. Maybe it's a little scary. It's just a change, right? I mean, that is a big life event. I mean, it's not just you anymore, not just you and her that you have to think about anymore. So something to keep in mind. Retirement, obviously, big life transition. I don't have a lot of firsthand experience in that right now, but as I was kind of going through and doing show prep, the things that come to mind and whatever the research is saying is plan and structure your days still, right? So you're not just waking up with just a wide open calendar out there that may seem a little daunting, especially if maybe you've had a very regimented life up until this point. Explore new hobbies, interests, maintain social connections, and seek support from retirement communities or organizations, right? Other people have been there, done that. We've all heard stories about people who maybe retired and maybe passed away, not too long after because it was just a shift. So I think really maintaining those relationships, keeping some structure, and maintaining those support social networks are really important. Look, we're going to dig into more strategies, but this is just some super high level stuff as I want to plant the seeds before we really dig into the nitty gritty of life transitions. So, starting or ending a romantic relationship, in the last year, I think I've done both, right? So I ended a significant one and now have started onto the dating front as well too. Very different, challenging in an entirely different way. But making sure that I'm staying supported from my friends, my family, my therapist. Again, I was just with my therapist. Was that on Friday? Um, Allow yourself some time to grieve and process the emotions, set boundaries, and prioritize self-care. Right? Again, I'm not going to dig into all that now. I will here in a minute, but just as you're thinking about all these new life transitions, starting or ending a relationship is obviously a significant one that the most of us are going through on a pretty, I don't know about regular basis, but we all go through that, right? Here's an interesting one that I was kind of thinking about as well, the empty nest syndrome, right? So you got kids, you've raised them, you've done all those great things, and all of a sudden you're back to you and your husband or wife or significant other, right? And you've got nothing but time and the two of you staring across from each other at the dinner table, right? That's going to be different. That is a life transition, right? That's why there's a term for it called empty nesters, right? So this is a good time to start to focus on personal goals and interests, keeping that open communication going with your children, exploring new hobbies and activities, not only as an individual, but as a couple. And then again, seeking some support and friends from maybe people who have already had maybe a couple years ahead of you. Maybe they can give you some tips or tricks on things that they did now that their kids were gone and probably some of the adjustments and what may be happening. So, another example of a life transition just to keep in the back of your mind. Number 8, recovering from an illness or injury, right? I've had some friends, I'm very athletic. I'm constantly running, playing basketball, lifting, whatever it is, and I see people get injured. And honestly, it kind of scares me sometimes because I'm like, man, I don't know what I would do, if I didn't have my ability to do yoga or run or lift. I mean, that would be really, really challenging, just mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that stuff. So that's a life transition that I know many of us are going to have. And if not, we're going to have loved ones who are going to experience health issues as well, too. So we want to make sure we follow medical advice, right? Be patient. If you're in the recovery process, seek some support, emotional support, maybe a good time to engage a counselor, right? Gradually start to reintegrate back into your daily life activities as your body kind of allows you or your medical kind of physician says that you can, and at a pace that feels comfortable with you, right? So just kind of taking it easy on yourself as you're getting through some of those. That's a big deal, right? If those of us that are super active and all of a sudden you're not, right? Wow, that would really, really be a tough thing to do. Number 9, going back to school, something I did myself, right? And I know a lot of us, we either have kids going into preschool, elementary, college, graduate school, or whatever, or maybe you're an older adult and you want to go back to school to get a master's or a PhD or something like that, right? Let's be realistic on the goals that we're setting for each other here. Manage your time effectively. Seek support from classmates, professors, and take advantage of available maybe online stuff as well too. I mean, online stuff is out there. Let's not kill yourself. I had to drive from where I lived in Scottsdale all the way to GCU while I was getting my master's in counseling. Came up a touch short, hence the unlicensed counselor part. But listen to episode 1 or 2, and we talk about that a little bit more. But just go easy on yourself as you're getting back into this. And number 10, and this is going to be an entire episode in the near future as well, too, losing a loved one. So really talking about grief and things like that. I've kind of been putting that topic off just because it's emotional. I mean, it's hard. I was very close with my grandfather, and he passed, gosh, it's probably been 10, 12 years now. I mean, very close. Like, moved out here, went to all my sports, taught me how to drive, how to shoot, all that kind of stuff. And that was also back when I was still drinking and using as well too. So I even remember showing up to the funeral back in Kentucky and still probably under the influence of something. And still, I still have to process a lot of those things as well too. So it's like almost been putting that off on myself. But in terms of a life transition, just allowing yourself some time to grieve in your own way, at your own pace, seeking support from friends and family, grief counselors, and honoring the memory of your loved one. And if you need to, get involved in support groups or bereavement services and things like that are obviously all good things to do at kind of a high level. So I wanted to run through and just kind of touch on some examples. So in case maybe you were hearing, okay, life transitions, I don't know if that really applies to me. Maybe something of those, and there's more. That's just kind of a super high level list. And there's certain more, but hopefully that maybe sparks something. So now when we dig into some of the strategies around, and I think most of these strategies would apply to many of those life transitions, if not all of them. So a couple thoughts here first. Maintaining a positive mindset, right? So I'm big on this in general, right? I don't want to go through life as that, Debbie Downer is that kind of generic term, but I just like to look positive, glass half full, and not in like some cheesy cornball kind of way, but it's just like, look, I got one life at this. If I'm just going to be bummed, and by the way, the people that don't do this, right? Does anybody have fun hanging around those people? They're depressing as hell. I mean, I have one of my close friends, his fraternity brother from my University of Colorado days, and I'm like, he's a great guy, but he's just eternally down. Granted, there might be some drug or alcohol issues still lingering into our 40s there as well too. Shocker. But it's just like, does anybody really want to be around that? So in terms of life transition, just keeping and maintaining a positive mindset. Embrace the transition as an opportunity for personal growth and new experience. Focus on the positive aspects that the transition can bring to your life, right? There's always something, a new opportunity that's kind of happening. Something that I've learned, call it in recovery, being sober, whatever it is, whether it was in business or startup or relationship or whatever it is, one door will close and I'll just be like, dad, like son of a, I can't believe that happened. Like I thought this was going to happen. And then a week, a month, 6 months later, an entirely new, so much better opportunity comes along and presents itself that would have never been there had that other thing that you were really down and depressed about not happened, right? And it has happened to the point so much that when a door closes like that, I'm able to kind of take my mindset and go, I wonder what's coming, right? I wonder what's coming, right? And that's an example to me of like the positive mindset. But I've also seen it firsthand go, okay, something cool must be getting ready to happen. Who knows when that's going to happen? But I've just seen that ring true so many times in my own life. Next point in terms of strategies for life transition, seek support. In fact, I think I kind of touched on support in many of just the examples of it. Obviously, this is the Unlicensed Counselor podcast. I'm a big fan of counseling, support, peer support, therapists, whatever it is you need, support groups, AA, Al-Anon, and that's just drug and alcohol related, but there is, a million types of support groups that you can get involved in. Stay connected. Don't do any of this stuff alone, right? Family, friends, support groups who've gone through similar things. They have insights that you might not be able to see very clearly given that you're in the middle of whatever this transition is, right? Tell them what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your thoughts are. Others can provide some emotional support and valuable insights. So again, just stop trying to do stuff on your own. Don't try and be some superhuman and think that you can shoulder this thing and get through whatever tough transition or life circumstance is happening. And you're going to come out better, supported, and a little bit stronger and healthier, right? Number 3, educate yourself, right? So you've got any of those examples of kind of what's going on. Make sure that you're gathering the information and resources related to the specific transition that you're facing. Look, there's no excuse for not having this, right? It's in your pocket, it's on your phone, it's at your fingertips. Use ChatGPT or some other AI. I mean, go crazy, right? There is no excuse for not having the information or resources available to whatever you're going through. You're going to get some incredible information. Look, what I share on the Unlicensed Counselor, this stuff exists in the world. It's what I went to graduate school and they told me all about, right? I'm just repackaging in a way that hopefully adds some value to your life or ears as you're listening, wherever you're at, right? Understanding what to expect can help reduce anxiety and make the transition smoother, right? Anxiety is another topic that I've got on the kind of parking lot of things that we're going to talk about as well too, because I'm getting a lot of comments around anxiety in relationships. So again, better education, less anxiety. Big fan of that. Smoother transition. Number 4, setting realistic expectations, right? So you got this new transition that's going to be coming up in your life. Let's make sure that we're approaching it appropriately, right? Like we're not trying to overshoot the moon on what our expectations are or anything here. And in fact, I would encourage you to undershoot things, set the expectations a little bit lower. You're going to be happier when you exceed those and kind of get things going. So recognize that adjusting to a new situation takes time. Don't put excess pressure on yourself and allow for a learning curve as you're getting into this transition as well too. I mean, I hope that doesn't come across as overly simplistic, but it's true, right? I mean, make sure that you're managing your expectations as you're going into this thing, and it's going to take some pressure off you as well too, right? So pretty straightforward stuff. I always laugh at number 5 because it makes its way into almost all our podcasts. Practice self-care, right? I was at my hot yoga class this morning. I practice what I preach. It's extremely important. I set my attention this morning. I was in with a new instructor, and it was just really great to hear a new voice, try things a little bit new. It's a huge part of my life, and it helps with my clarity of thinking. It helps with, I'm big on the breathing, relaxing my jaw, and trying to unclench, and all these things. Prioritize this stuff, right? Whether it's yoga, right, or exercise, or a walk, or throwing pottery clay together, whatever it is you do to help you, just make sure that it's a priority so that your mental well-being is taken care of, right?